Hey all, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be completing a front brake job on this 2007 Toyota Tundra. Before you start the job, let's take a look at the brake fluid level. If there is too much brake fluid in the reservoir, what's going to happen when you push back the caliper pistons is it's going to overflow. So just take a look and see how much is in there. Our level is around here, so it might be okay. Or you can open a cap and extract some of it with like a turkey baster or a syringe or a vacuum sucker. Now, people often have a misconception that you need to have the cap off when compressing the caliper pistons back. It really doesn't matter, and the reason is that it has a vent in it. You see that tiny little hole right in the middle of the plastic white piece in the middle? So that's a vent. So you can definitely compress the pistons with a cap on. It's not going to change anything. If you take it off, it's fine too. It doesn't matter pretty much. Whatever works for you. If you leave it on, prevents dirt and stuff from falling in there. So let's proceed. Lift the vehicle up, or at least the axle that you're working on, and then rest it on jack stands. I mean, I've got a lift here, so it's a little bit different, but I prefer lifting by the frame. I found it's the most secure. Remove the wheels. The factory lug nut size is 22 millimeter, but if you have aftermarket wheels, it might be different. All right, so the first thing we'll do is get this clip out of here that holds the pins from falling out. So you just pull it out of the little holes in the pins and then take it out. Just remember which way it goes. Now we're gonna get the pins out. Sometimes they're really stuck in there, sometimes they're not. So we'll see what it's like this time. Oh, this one is pretty stuck. Now you can use a punch to get it out the rest of the way. You can get this spring out of here now. I'm gonna push back on this pad a little bit just so it's easier to get it out of here. I'm gonna get it out so I can get a better angle at these pins, because right now my punch, it's too short. I don't have a longer one here at home. So I'm gonna get the inner pad out, and that's gonna help me get a better angle at it here. Oh, this guy got all the life he could out of these brake pads. Note that the pad with a squealer tab is the inner pad. The outer one does not have this squealer tab on it. That's one pin out. And there's the other one. Take a look at these pins. So if they're nice and straight and not deformed or corroded or pitted, you could clean them up and reuse them. Also make sure that this pin that we removed can actually go through the hole. Because when you're knocking them out, sometimes you can like mushroom this end and squish it down, and then you can't get the pin through. And then if the pins are bent and pitted and stuff, then you probably want to replace it. I mean, unless you're in a pinch, you can try to straighten it out. With this one also, the you can't get the pin through. So again, if you're stuck and you need the vehicle on the road, you can drill this hole out so you can get the pin through straight in the big pin and reinstall it. But with this one, it's probably best to replace it because it's bent and just deformed. If you end up reusing the pins, just clean them up nicely with either sandpaper or, grinder with a wire brush attachment on it or something like that, so that they're nice and clean and not covered in rust anymore. Now at this point, if you don't have like a caliper piston compressor, what you could do is you could pop the pad back in there, and then you could use a couple of pry bars to just push against the pads, and that way you could compress the piston. So you could go like this and keep compressing it, and then when you get enough space there, you could get a pry bar in between here and press against the rotor, and you can compress the pistons that way. But if you have the compressor, it's definitely easier. I just wanted to show you that it's possible to do it like this as well. I'm gonna use a compressor to finish it off, so I'll get the pads out for now. And all this penetrating fluid we sprayed on here to get the pins out, I'm gonna clean it off so we don't have it stain on the rubber components. So just use some brake and parts cleaner, some like this. Works really well. Okay, now we're gonna get this wheel speed sensor wire out. So just squeeze the little tabs with some needle nose pliers, and you can pop it out like that. Now we can get this 10mm head bolt out that holds the wiring bracket on. And now this 12mm head bolt. Okay, now we can get these two bolts holding the caliper onto the steering knuckle off. They're 17mm heads. Get ready to catch this thing, and you could have a hook ready or a zip tie or a bungee strap just to hang it up. Something like this. Now we can compress the caliper pistons with a tool like this, and you can check the links below the video for any tools or supplies you need to complete this job. Now take a good look at all four pistons. Sometimes you'll find that the rubber boot kind of pops out a bit and it hangs over the piston. And then what happens is when you put the pads in, it can get sucked in between the pad and the piston. And when you apply the brakes, it's gonna rip it. So if you see that the rubber is sticking out and is not nice and flush like it is here, you could get a little screwdriver and just carefully push it back in. Sometimes there's air trapped behind them, so you can just push the little lip back a bit and let the trapped air escape. But in our case, everything looks good here. Now I'll take a wire brush and clean up these surfaces here on all four sides. That's where the pad's gonna sit inside the calipers, so you don't want a bunch of rust and dirt built up in there. So clean it out nicely, and you can take a little screwdriver, just scrape out any rust in the corners and make sure it's really clean and smooth. Once you finish cleaning it, just check with a brake pad and make sure that the brake pad can slide in there smoothly and goes in and out and moves in there without any interference, and that tells you that you've cleaned it up well. Now we're going to get the rotor off. So you could bash on it with a hammer from this side if you want, and it can come out that way. Or you can get an M8 by 1.25 millimeter bolt and just thread it into one of the two holes. And that's gonna push the rotor against the hub and get the rotor off. Just like that. Now use a wire brush and do a really good job of cleaning all the rust off. You can use a smaller one to get in between here, but clean off anything that could raise the rotor off from the hub and cause it to not sit flat and parallel to the hub. You can use a little screwdriver or a big screwdriver to kind of scrape the rust from the inside here. And a small brush to get in between. Just take your time and clean it well. Once you're satisfied with how clean it is, we can go ahead and put the new rotor on. The owner of this truck picked up these drilled and slotted rotors from Amazon. Some rotors come with like a little bit of a oily coating on them to protect them. I don't know if these ones do or not, but if you want to be sure, just clean it off with a brake clean. What I personally like to do is, you can see where the holes were in the rotor, where the bolt can get screwed in to remove the rotor. So I line up the new rotor holes with these ones as well, because sometimes they can have like a rust ridge in there, and if you turn the rotor and they don't line up, then it might not sit flat. So let's line them up and reinstall them the same way. And then you can install one of the lug nuts or a couple of lug nuts just to hold the rotor in place. Reinstall the caliper with two 17mm bolts. And tighten the bolts to 73 foot-pounds. Reinstall the 12mm head bolt and tighten to 21 foot-pounds. Now install the little 10mm head bolt and tighten to 5 foot-pounds. And reinstall this clip. Okay, we can reinstall the pads now. So just match the squealer with the same one that you originally took out of here, because on one side the squealer will be here, on the other one it will be here. And then the pad with the squealer goes on the inside. And I like to put a little bit of brake protection paste, or you can use like a copper anti-seize, just a little bit on the edges here to help them slide. Some people claim that that collects dirt and whatnot. I've never had an issue with it. This is what I prefer to do. And then you can reinstall them in, and they should slide in nicely because we did a good job cleaning the caliper. And then get the other pad in as well. Something to note also is that the factory pads have the shims that are separate. So if you're installing factory pads, just make sure that the shims are not rusted and corroded, and you can clean them up and reuse them. You can put a little bit of brake caliper grease on them also to help prevent any squealing, and they go together like this. But if you're installing the aftermarket pads like I have here, most of them will have the shims already attached to them, so you don't need to deal with this step. Now grab your new refurbished pins. I personally like to put just a little bit of anti-seize or brake protection paste on them, just so that they don't get stuck badly in the caliper like the original ones did, where we had to pound them out and get them in there. With the bottom one, we got to reinstall the spring. If you're reusing this spring, just make sure it's not deformed or, you know, cracked or broken, and it still has its springiness. And reinstall it back like that, so the little legs will be in those holes. And now you can get the pin through it. There we go. Now we can reinstall this clip that holds them in place. So you can just stick it into the hole and turn it in a direction that we need the holes to face. And turn it like this. Now you can get it into both holes. And then lastly, you get it into this middle one. And make sure it's secure and not gonna fall out. Now you can repeat the same process on the other side. Finish the brake job on the other side following the same steps. And then when you're done, remove the nut that was holding the rotor on, and you can put the wheel back on. Lower the truck and torque the wheels. The original spec with OEM lug nuts on alloy wheels is 97 foot-pounds. And then if you have the steel wheels, it's 154 foot-pounds. If you have aftermarket wheels and aftermarket lug nuts, you can check the torque spec with the manufacturer. I'm tightening these particular ones to 110, just a little bit more than stock, just to be sure. Now pump the brake pedal a few times just to take up any slack in the caliper pistons. So now that it's nice and firm, we can check the brake fluid level. Okay, now let's check the brake fluid level. So in our case, it's just a little bit high. It's above the max line. If it's low, you can top it off. If it's high, you can either drain some out of a caliper, or you can get some out of here with like a syringe or something, and that's what I'm gonna do. So get the cap off and then take out the little filter out of here. Get all the brake fluid off of it so that it doesn't drip inside your engine bay, and you can put it on a piece of cardboard or a piece of plastic or something. And then what you can do is get a clean syringe like this and just get some brake fluid out of it until the level is right at the max mark there. All right, there we go. It's perfect now. So get the filter back in there and put the cap on. And there you go. Brake job is completed. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more Toyota Tundra videos. And check the links below the video for any tools or supplies you may need to complete the job shown in this tutorial. See you next time. Cheers.